You're good.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. The journey continues. We are here with Tommy from Cherry Amplifiers. What is up? What's going on?
What's happening, guys?
Hi, everybody.
Tommy's got his ring light,
Hey,
his
guys.
beauty light on.
Tommy, you're looking beautimous tonight.
Oh,
Beautimous.
thanks, guys. You shouldn't.
So Tommy just got his set up today. He's got a nice microphone. He's got a, what do they call that? Not a wind jammer. What's that thing in front?
Spit screen.
Spit screen.
Pop screen, pop filter,
screen,
like
yeah.
That sounds better. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, got his ring light, man. Very cool, man. Thanks for
Why
stepping
you
up.
such
You can
a
see the
lovable
ring
guy,
light if I move my
Tommy?
head.
Yeah.
What's that?
Tommy's such a lovable guy.
Wow, thanks, guys. Or thanks, Joe.
Yeah,
You're
man.
much more lovable than me, so what's that make me?
Glad to have you on the show again, Tommy.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Same here.
Everybody
Great to
likes
be
when you're
here. It seems like yesterday we just did this.
Yeah, man. So we've got some new folks that are joining us this quarter. So they may not be familiar with who you are and with Cherry Amp. So you want to kind of give just a little quick intro of who you are and what you do.
I'm Tommy O'Brien. I'm the founder of Digital Amplifier Company. And Cherry Amplifier is a brand of digital amplifier company. We make DACs, amplifiers, and accessories, high performance stuff.
Yeah, man. I even got your email about your Kickstarter. Got what is it, the Dakdak 3 you're working on?
Dac Deck 3, yeah, that's going to be coming out pretty
Very
soon.
cool. Very cool.
And also, we just put out a video comparing speakers yesterday. I don't know if you saw that.
Is that on your YouTube channel?
Yes, but it's actually, you have to get the link from me because it's
Like an unlisted link?
yeah.
Okay.
So
We'll check
anybody
it out.
on?
So how was that recording?
I use different binaural mics than the one that you suggested.
Okay.
I did
Yeah,
buy
I'm
both.
curious to hear.
I bought both. There are a couple of issues with that recording. It's a learning process. First of all, editing these kind of things is much more difficult than we anticipated. We were editing, no joke, for 13 hours straight one day. And that was just to get to the point where it could be rendered. And then later titles and graphics were added. But just syncing up the audio between the different speakers so that when the audio changes, you can hear it go along with the video changing. That was a difficult job.
Lining it all up. Yeah.
You're getting high tech there, man.
Also, I learned that leaning back on, especially with the JTR speakers, leaning back really sounds good. I believe the tweeters are more along like a lower profile. So when I lean back, it's closer, it's more of a straight line to my ears.
Mm-hmm.
But with the binaural mics, I guess based on the shape of my ear, when it's tilted back, the little things that stick out, I don't know what the parts of the ear are called. I probably should. But
These little wingdings.
Wingding, yeah, it kind of gets in the way of the mic and it makes it sound like the highs are attenuated. But I think if you listen to it, you really can hear the tonal difference between the speakers. You know, that aside, I put a note in the notes. I hope that people read the YouTube notes on videos.
One thing just to let
the description.
One thing to let them know
the
is when you put stuff down there, direct them to it. Say, hey, I've added some show notes down in the description below, so be sure to check that out.
Yeah, I should.
Not everybody knows to click on those.
Sounds like a pro right there.
Yeah, this is a guy who's done a few videos.
I got a couple.
Just a couple.
Chana's the man has got a few, man. He's got like 6,000 from his phone and another 4,000 with a fancy camera.
I think I have I think I'm at a 530, but I went on a deleting spree and it deleted like 80 of them.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Like your garbage ones or what?
No, that would be all of them. Wait,
I saw a legendary brown note. Wow. I love the name.
no one reads. No, they don't.
Okay,
and
actually-
it's hard to read the description on mobile too. Like just to get in there and find it.
That's not true, dude. Because we
No, you
wouldn't
hit
have
the little
we
thing
would,
on the right.
we wouldn't have any affiliate
true.
sales if people didn't
that's
read
true.
the description. So they definitely do read them, but it does help to let them know that you've got something down in the description, whether
Yeah.
it's a link to
Next
your
time.
website or it could be a podcast that you did and you got a link there. So just definitely kind of direct them to it.
Yeah, this, like I was saying about the learning experience, also during the recording, the battery started running out on the Tascam recorder. That we were using.
Yep. Sure.
And because of that, we plugged it into the wall, but the way that charges is with a USB cable. And we didn't realize this, but when it was plugged into the wall, there was a little tiny
Like a
hum.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these mics, the ones I used, they run on the 48 volt phantom power from the
recorder.
The recorder. Someone just joined me here.
Hey,
I don't know. Now I look like Dr. Evil with the dog.
Yeah.
We got somebody here said congrats on the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Oh, he's caught in my headphones. So thank you very much for that. Yeah. Kickstarter was successful. 288% is what we reached there. Of our goal.
Wow.
Fantastic, man. Congratulations.
It was our 7th successful Kickstarter in a row. We never had a bad one.
Wow.
I've been asked to write a book about doing Kickstarters, actually, and I turned them down.
What?
No,
Why?
I have way too much going on.
Yeah, I was about to say you probably have a lot going on. Yeah.
First of all, the development of the Dac Deck 3, that's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And also doing these videos and things the last couple of weeks, it's just been very busy with a lot of things. Actually, Joe helped out a lot last week, and we put together a couple of really brief product videos for the HiFi Summit, and they came out really good, really well. Is it good or well? Yeah, they came out well. So, Chana, where are you? So
he's getting some hibiki.
I had to grab my SSD.
I figured he was getting some hibiki.
I was going to grab some hibiki, but no, I realized that for the after party, I've got some special tracks that are only on YouTube, and so I got to put them on the SSD before we do that. So yeah, but yeah.
Angus says, I see what you guys did. You put a cherry on top of the summit to kick it off.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thanks. The cherry's always on top.
That's right.
Right.
So I think next time I'm going to have to play with the light. I think it does kind of.
You look good, man. You look good.
Oh, thanks. You look better.
Don't worry about it.
So they want to know. You can explain the Dac Deck 3.
The Dac Deck 3 is an optimized version of the Dac Deck 2. It's a continuation in the series. We're going to get a couple more dB of signal noise ratio. We're taking out some things that were put in as options that we no longer want. So we're actually going to shorten the signal path even more. We redid the power circuits, and we also put in hooks for a future version that will basically look like our digital preamp that we've been working on and off for a couple of years. And the Dac Deck 3 is the culmination of all of our experience making DACs. So we're not going to come out with a version that has that volume knob on it. Probably not, I'll say. We have something fancier planned, and that's all I'm going to say for now.
Oh, I like
fancy.
it. But so this is your Dac Deck 2 here.
Right. So the Dac Deck 3 is going to differ on the outside by having a second input. On the back, an optical input. There'll be a switch to select whether you're listening to the optical or the coax input. Aside from that, the I/O of the product remains the same. The look of it remains the same. I would like to point out for the people that aren't familiar with the Cherry product line that the Dac Deck product is in the same footprint as our Cherry USB. See that stack there? It's in the same footprint as the Cherry USB, our 1 kilowatt power supply, and also the stereo maraschino. So you can stack all 4 of those on top of each other in one stack, like that part right there.
Stack right there, yeah.
Yeah. And in the back, the cables can be extremely short, like 6-inch XLR cables. We've been able to use 1-foot DC cable to power the DAC. We also have an option to put a 12-volt power supply, an additional 12-volt output on the power supply, so that drives the DAC. So the DAC runs from one. The whole system runs off of one power cord. So
Exciting stuff, man.
thanks.
I want to click on these, make them bigger.
This is our it's our newest our newest product that we're developing, and we've been asked by a lot of people about our amplifier line and what we're working on behind the scenes with the amplifier product line. So I did want to address that at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that a lot of people ask us about our DACs. They seem confused. I know that our website's not it's not IBM, so we have a lot of work that needs to be done on it, little tweaks and things mostly. But the DAC description, we get a lot of questions about anyway. So if anyone has any questions about the DACs first, then we could cover that first.
You can drop those in the chat.
Yeah. Do you use off-the-shelf DAC?
No, we use a DAC chip. Actually, a pair of DAC chips. It's the Burr Brown PCM 1794A, and that's what we've used since the beginning of making DACs, because the performance that is available from that chip is basically the best on the market as far as the numbers go, except for maybe the ESS chips, but I don't like the way they do their filtering. And I've listened to their DACs along with DAC chips and reference designs from Cirrus Logic, and also from Analog Devices and from ESS and from TI, other parts from TI. And I like the PCM 1794 the best. So that's the basis of the design. Inside of the box, there are also an array of power supply circuits and output drivers and things like that. But it's a simple design meant to just take a digital PCM signal and create analog audio as well as possible.
Very cool. So when do you think the new Dac Deck 3 will be released? Do you have like a time or date, or not really?
We're thinking December.
Oh, so pretty close.
Oh,
yeah. We're going to be sending out prototypes first to the people that bought them from our Kickstarter program.
Gotcha.
There's a little video for you. It's on your Kickstarter page.
Those amps look so cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So that's the new Dakdak 3.
I wonder if anyone wants the silver anymore. We haven't offered the silver in a few years. I really like the way the silver looks. So that board there, that's a really old design, and there were a few things in there that I didn't really like. Yeah, the Dac Deck 1 had a lot of, I guess what you call optionitis in it.
Okay.
So that you could change between this tube-like circuit and the HS, which is the high-spec version.
Mm-hmm.
And we went through a lot of different board revs. This video talks a lot about the hardware in very specific, excruciatingly specific details to some people.
Mm-hmm.
So
cool. I was thinking it had like, does it show some pictures of the Dac Deck 3?
No, but it's going to look the same from the outside on the front.
Gotcha. I know you mentioned this was changing the volume.
When it says Dac Deck 3, it shows a picture of the Dac Deck 2, which is essentially, it looks the same as the Dac Deck 3 from the front.
Okay.
So that one there, that's the Dac Deck 2 from the back.
Gotcha.
There also will be a version that doesn't have the, see, that's actually proper, because there will be a version that doesn't have the selector switch. It's just, the same as, it's same externally, but internally we're actually hoping to reach 132 dB this time.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah.
Should we talk about some of your amps?
Absolutely.
What do you want to talk about? This is your show now.
It's your
I have a
time, man.
list. I have prepared a
Oh.
list.
Let's go.
All
let's
right,
go.
let's hear it.
Bring
Yeah.
You're the
bust it out.
boss.
Bust
Let's
it
go.
out.
Okay, first,
David
our
said
mo-
he's dying to hear about your amp. See, they're ready to go.
thank you, Dave. So we have a multi-channel amplifier line that we came out with last year, and it's called the X Cherry. X meaning a number from 2 to 5, and so we have a 2-channel 2 cherry, and we have a 3 cherry, and a 4 cherry, and a 5 cherry, and a lot of customers use these in different ways other than just a simple basic surround sound system or even an Atmos system. There's some 2-channel customers that use these, say a 4 cherry to do bi-amping, and also a 3 cherry to do left, right, center, and then they use a 5 cherry for the rest of the channels. And it could be used also for the 2 cherries is really popular. So for 2-channel audio, even though this is out of the multi-channel series, the 2 cherry and the 3 cherry have triple rail capacitance, which is really good for especially people that like to listen to rock music or live music that has a lot of transients and whatnot, because the capacitance holds over the power supply in between transients very well. And in this case, the performance is very high, 118 dB, 100 kilohertz bandwidth, damping factor of 500, and really it's not just about the specs. It's a 400 watt per channel amp. There's a 1,000 watt power supply in there that is there for the channels as they need it. So you can have one channel that's taking 2 watts and then 4 channels that are taking a couple hundred watts each, and they all coexist friendly in the box. So they also have automatic sleep mode on all the channels. So if you're using it to listen to 2-channel audio, but you're using it in a 5-channel system, for example, the other 3 channels will go to sleep while you're playing the 2, so that the power supply reserve is directed to the 2 channels that are playing. And then the other good thing about that is you don't need a remote control or a remote. I guess they're usually 12-volt jacks that are on equipment. We have them in our Megashino amplifier series for that purpose, but that's kind of a legacy thing. These home theater decoders and whatnot have a signal that tells the screen to come up and down and to turn the lights on, stuff like that. So the rest of the system knows that you've turned on the processor, so it's time to play a movie. And that's no longer necessary because the amps just sleep when they're not being played. So you never have to turn it off. You can leave it on all the time.
How long does that
That's
take
one.
for it to switch?
It's if there's
How long
no
does-
music, if there's no music for about 8 minutes, it sleeps. And it's on an independent channel basis. So whatever channels have been quiet will go to sleep, and you can't tell when it comes back alive. And it's so fast. It's like on the order of single-digit milliseconds for it to come back up.
Nice.
So, like if there's a surround sound part where it's quiet, it's been quiet, and then all of a sudden a missile comes from behind you, the surround channels wake up instantly.
Yeah, no popping or anything like that. It's just
It's quiet
as
off.
if they were just on the whole time, right?
Yep, you can't even tell.
Very cool.
And they're so quiet that you can't tell when they're on anyway, in most cases.
Well, somebody asked, actually a few people asked, like you can't use this with an AVR. It's all XLR, right? No RCAs. These guys.
We give you XLR adapters. With every amp that we make.
I thought that's what you said last time. Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually pretty common to mix them. I've seen people use 2 for the fronts that are XLRs, and then the surround channels come in on RCA.
We just saw something earlier today that had that. They had the 2 XLRs, and that's the first time I'd ever seen that.
Oh, it was
They-
that big Yamaha.
Yeah.
It
So
had
it was like
a-
2
yeah.
XLRs for the mains, and then the rest were RCA. I was like,
RCA, yeah.
that's weird.
I saw a Denon that had all XLRs for
Hmm.
every, like an Atmos receiver.
Was that the
Wow.
8500?
I don't
That's
know.
strange.
It's 8500.
Let me look.
I haven't seen a Denon with XLR outs in a long
Sure it
time.
was pretty sure it was Denon.
Denon doesn't
The back
usually
panel was
make
like a
one.
line of XLRs.
Let's
What's
see
that?
if
Could have been the
8500.
Marantz.
Marantz, maybe.
I know the Marantz.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
no XLR on the 8500.
Well,
That's their flagship right
they
now.
don't make a processor. I think
Mm-mm.
it would just compete a little too much with the Marantz.
Actually, you know what though? They actually do make a processor. They just
What?
don't sell it in the US.
Oh,
Yeah,
is it Japan only?
Yeah, it's somewhere overseas. I asked
That's
Paul about it a
interesting.
long time ago because, I was wondering, hey, is Denon ever going to come out with a processor? And he said, we actually do have processors.
Mm-hmm.
He said, we just don't sell them in the US for whatever reason.
Interesting.
Yep. So cool, man.
Tommy,
Yeah,
you
these
want to talk
things are
about
great.
The next,
Megashino?
the next
Or-
one I want to talk about is actually the Maraschino,
Okay.
because it kind of leads up to it. If the Maraschino boards are what we use in the X Cherry, so all of the multi-channel amps they use the same board as our monoblock Maraschino amplifiers, like the Golden Cherry, which is the one on the upper right there. There's black cubes; those are Maraschinos. The only one that's kind of the outlier is really the stereo Maraschino. And the DACs and the USB are all kind of the same genre with that. Michael, you did test the
I did.
stereo Maraschino, and
Yep.
that was I believe that was the King version, which is a 400 watt per channel
Correct.
flamethrower. Now I'm just
I was blown away. I'm like, when I got it, honestly, my first initial impression was these are cute. Like they're just little and tiny. They're only 6.5 inches, I think, wide.
but it feels pretty solid, right?
Yeah, it's got a great build quality, but it wasn't. I'm used to like big toroidal transformers. I'm going, okay, how's this thing going to be putting out 400 watts when I've got a 2-channel 400 watts that weighs like 10 times that weight? But it had no problem like cranking my RF7s. They've got 4 10-inch woofers in them, So I was like, okay,
You move some air.
yeah. So
So
absolutely, it was a beast.
The
Hey,
first
Tommy, I have
okay, go
I have
ahead.
a question about these. I like. Are those monoblocks? The gold one and like those look so cool.
They're monoblocks. The first ones that we made, I was just going to say, actually, it's a good lead in. The first ones we did were actually the inline Maraschino. And I took them to a couple of shows, parties, audio parties where people used to gather back in the old days. And I don't think people really took well to the whole concept of hanging amplifiers behind your speakers. And that's really what that was made for initially. The whole concept was to make an amplifier light enough to hang it from the binding post in order to eliminate the speaker wire from the equation. Because
Interesting.
even, we make some speaker cables, and the reason we do is because we want to assure low resistance, because that's really important for the damping factor of the amplifier. And if we have a damping factor of 500, which translates to 16 milliohms output, right? And high Don. Where's the no labeling on the faceplate? Let me ask that question. I'm sorry. I'll go back to what I was saying about the inline Maraschino. The STM now has labels on the faceplate. The new lot of enclosures that we're getting soon has silkscreen on the front. So we did fix that. I know that Michael made a comment about that. So our kind of, the look of our stuff, some people love it. Some people really don't love it. But we kind of try to stay consistent with the plain look without a lot of lettering and a lot of, labels. And we try to keep the logo very simple because it's more classy looking, we think. But with the stereo maraschino, the labels on there actually look pretty nice. So back to the inline maraschino, I think the concept of hanging the amplifiers from the speakers was not really that accepted in a physical way. But if you have 8 feet of 9-gauge wire, the round trip resistance of that wire is actually about 16 milliohms, which is the same as the output resistance of the amp, which means mathematically that the damping factor is cut in half. And that's with 9-gauge wire, okay? Most people's speaker wires are like 12 to 16 gauge. And 16 is, every 3 gauges is double the resistance as you move up in gauge. So if you go from 10 gauge to 13 gauge, that's double the resistance, okay? So our goal with the inline maraschino was to have 4-inch speaker wire. 4-inch speaker wire has something like 1 milliohm resistance. So you don't lose any damping factor at all. And the result is really amazing. I mean, I've heard people argue about how damping factor is not that important and the speaker coil itself is so much resistance. But when you listen to it, it's one of those things that measuring actually doesn't really do it justice. You can measure a speaker and get, say, 0.2% distortion out of the speaker, which is actually a pretty good THD for a speaker. And then you use an amplifier that has 0.001 less percent distortion. You're not going to measure a difference in the speaker distortion. But you might hear a difference if there's a different tonal quality, or if the resistance that's driving the speaker is lower. You might hear that, but you're not going to be able to measure it very well, because measuring speakers is pretty difficult, especially in a room.
I was going to ask Tommy, if those at a desk, right? So one of my issues with a lot of the powered speakers is that they have hiss. Like I can hear them while they're on. And when it's at a desk, like you're so close, you can definitely hear them. Are these quiet?
All of the maraschino amps have 118 dB signal noise ratio, and even better, the lower voltage versions, the 48 volt versions, put out something like 20 microvolts of noise, which is, you can't even hear it. So it's actually pretty good for that. The desktop amps, they were put into production first, and the intended application was like a studio kind of a close, near field type application, and smaller systems. But people started powering big systems with those amps because we came out with the higher power. Originally, it was all 48 volts, and they could put out 250 watts into 4 ohms, but it was really like 120 watt amp or 125 into 8 ohms. So we, almost doubled the power when we went for the King version. And the next one, because I'm looking at the clock, we're half an hour in. The next amplifiers I'd like to talk about are the Magnapan amplifiers. And the reason I wanted to bring up the maraschino first is because the maraschino was made first, and that design was used as a baseline for the Magnapan design, where we brought in some new technology, some new patented stuff that we developed over the course of about 5 years of R&D. And by doing that, we were able to up the voltage and put this thing in our high power amps, the modulator technology that we developed and the output stage technology we developed into our higher power amps. We make these circuits component by component, so we're not buying someone's circuit or, paying someone to design something for us. I actually do all this stuff. I run simulations, and I do the schematics and sometimes the layout, depending on what it is. But these designs are tweaked down to the last component, and the Magnapan is the culmination of essentially 3 decades of R&D. So this thing is, it's like a tank. First of all, lots and lots of power. Second of all, we with the feedback at a higher level, which is what we don't do, and I'll explain why in a second, we were able to get almost 130 dB signal noise ratio out of this design. But when we listened to that, especially with inefficient speakers, I didn't like the way it sounded. I thought the Maraschino sounded better. So what we did was we backed off on the feedback, and we changed a few things to make the feedback not as needed. So we improved the open loop performance first, and then because we're able to use higher voltages in this design, we were able to drive a huge amount of power. I mean, the boards that are in this amp without a heatsink can deliver 2,000 watts into 2 ohms for a couple seconds, which is just outrageous. Like an arc welder, you know. It just has it can put out so much current. So this is our flagship product, and there will be a review coming out soon about the mono blocks. That's actually due out this week. So we'll see. Hopefully it'll be out this week. So, I neglected to say this comes in stereo and mono. And the power output goes up to 1,000 watts into 4 ohms per channel. Well, on the monos, but really continuously, it'll do about 850, and on peaks it can go maybe 1,200. But that's not really the bragging rates are the quietness of this amp, first of all. And I should put the FFT on there. I know people mostly don't know what it means aside from it's like a spectrograph. But if you see what this thing does when it's putting out milliwatts, the noise floor is all the way out to way past 20 kilohertz. Is flat and low, and it's like there's not a peep out of the rest of the spectrum. It's just the beauty of the FFT of this amp is a great thing. I saw a question: current per channel. I
think he was asking on the yeah, here it is. Can you tell how much current per channel? Yeah.
The output stages are capable of more than 50 amp peak. Excuse me. There are current sensing. There's current sensing in there to make sure that if you try to do more current, I'd have to calculate it, but more current than it takes to put 2,000 watts into 2 ohms. If you try to go significantly above that, where the peak of that curve is, the amp will go into protect, because it's going to think legitimately that you're driving, a short, basically, which is the only reason it would get like that, unless you actually are trying to make an arc welder out of an amplifier.
It looks like yours could do that.
It would be cool.
What about here's a question from Reginald. Do you do all the manufacturing in-house?
That's correct, yes. All made in USA, in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Actually, South Whitehall, Pennsylvania. The parts also, all of our suppliers are local, including the assembly house for our boards, the company that makes our metalwork, the company that makes our wire harnesses, and now a new company that we just started doing business with that's in Texas that is making our power transformers. We have a prototype of a 1,600 watt transformer now. We have made 2,000 watt transformers before. Sadly, the 2,000 watt transformer we made last year did not fit in the chassis.
Wow.
It was
you
too,
got to make a bigger amp.
It's like this
chassis.
is a
too
beast.
high.
Wow.
It was too high by about 1/4 of an inch, and oh my god, when I tried to put the lid on, it was not a happy moment.
I bet somebody was got a little talking to.
Do you know? Somebody actually said, I was talking about that amp, and someone said, "I'll just take it without the lid."
That's hilarious. That's awesome. I bet you could have sold it too.
No, they were willing to take it, but I didn't want to sell it like that.
Yeah. I'd have sold it. I'm an entrepreneur. I'd be like, heck yeah, man.
Don't hug the boxes.
Hey, people go with cars with no hoods. You know
That's
what I mean?
true, man. Hey, we like looking under the hood. I think more manufacturers ought to make like a plexiglass top or something, so we can see inside that joker.
Now, I've had a couple of upgrades come in, returns for upgrades, and because we have vent holes in the, all the amps, I've seen insects living in there, and all kinds of stuff. I can't even imagine what would happen with an open top. That would be there'd probably be
probably not good.
Doritos and
that's awesome.
Hopefully nothing magnetic or electrically conductive.
So here's a good question from Ripeway Audio. He says, most amplifier separates today do not have meters. Is there a technical reason why those are avoided in designs? We like VU meters, man. Tommy, when are you going to hook us up?
The Cherry digital preamp design has meters.
Oh, hey.
So if you drive your amps with that in the future, they're your meters. But no, we've been asked to put meters on our amps, and we might just do that.
Gotcha.
It's pretty soon. We'll see.
Ooh. Hey, you heard it here first, guys.
Hey.
Little inside scoop
but
from
not
Tommy.
But not like, I'm sorry, not the cheesy. Pardon me, because everyone's going to hate me now. No, not the cheesy Macintosh blue meters. Sorry.
Oh, not the cheesy one. So what would be an
names?
We want a red.
Fired. Oh, yeah, of course you need to have a red.
It's not going to be a red version of a Macintosh meter. No. I'm thinking digital.
Okay.
I'm thinking something a little prettier. We'll see. But we're not known for our aesthetics.
Hey.
I think the Megashino is a beautiful piece because it does what it does and it looks pretty good. But it doesn't look like a D'Agostino amp, and it also doesn't cost $250,000.
Sure.
Popular pairing with JTR. Yes, correct. JTR, a lot of our customers have JTR speakers. A lot of them have spatial speakers. So, shout out to Jeff Permanian. Permanian, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Jeff from JTR. Also, Clayton Shaw over at Spatial. I know he has a pair of Cherry amps. And so does Jeff. Also, Eric Alexander from Tecton, who doesn't have Cherry amps yet, but we'll see about that. And actually, I want to ask him if he wants to participate in our speaker testing. So it'd be great to get a pair of double impacts over here. Anybody want to spread the news there? It'd be great. Also, another manufacturer that's we have a lot of customers with Magnapan speakers. It's another real popular one. Klipsch. Those are pretty much the most popular brands. I'll tell you, JTRs are really something else.
I agree. They blew me away.
I mean, if you've probably heard a pair of 215s, right, Michael?
I have. I heard Jeff's with your amplifiers.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, you can get knocked onto the floor.
Then I heard 5 of the 12 versions, the 212s RTs.
Those are really spectacular. We use those at Expona, powered by the Mega Monos.
Mm-hmm.
One for the center, one for the left, one for the right, and then the surround sound channels were all multi-channel amps.
Crazy.
But those fronts, oh man, could they pound? And the 212s are really efficient. They're like 100 dB.
Yep.
So, I'm very, I'm a big fan of speakers that don't make me scared to turn it up. Like I have a pair of Dynaudio Sapphires that were sent to me from a customer who became a good friend. These speakers, they're amazing. They're absolutely amazing sounding. However, the one downside is I'm afraid to turn them up because if I pop those cones onto the floor, I'll probably cry for a week straight.
Sure. I don't think you got to worry about that with the JTRs though.
That's the thing.
I think Woody just got his set. So.
Oh, and by the way,
I think he did.
One of you guys, I talked to one of you guys about the Vandersteens. I have a pair of Vandersteen 2CEs that I bought from a guy who upgraded to the trios, and they're good sounding speakers, but one of them had a problem that the surround came off the woofer. Mm-hmm. So I just got the glue today. It's another thing that came today. I got all my webcasting equipment and all of my speaker fixing equipment.
Speaker glue.
Yeah.
Tommy's got projects for days.
The Vandersteens are very interesting because they have a passive radiator in the back. Also, they're covered. The entire speaker is covered with a grill cloth, so you can't see the speakers, and this is like a mystery.
So you can't see the woofer at all.
You can't see it, and the only way to see it is to take the thing apart. Actually, the only way to get behind the grill cloth. So repairing them is a little harder.
Yeah, difficult.
So Cruising RSX. Could you share any more info on, or share more on your Dakdak 3? I could summarize real quick. Dakdak 3 is our next in the line of DACs, and we're hoping to get to 132 dB. It's in the development phase right now, and we are planning to release the product to our Kickstarter supporters in November and to the public in December. And it's the signal paths in this DAC are extremely minimized. Power supply design is optimized. It's jitter immune, and it produces balanced double differential DC coupled outputs. So you can drive a DC coupled amp like the Cherry amps, Maraschino, Megashino, X-Cherry, and have an end-to-end DC coupled system, which is extremely uncommon. And that means that the bass timing is perfect. There's no phase shift in the bass. So the Dac Deck 3 is also going to be have a select switch to allow you to use optical or coax inputs. That's another an advantage to that product. And we might have some demos to sell in December when the people that got their prototypes are probably going to either trade up or go for the next version. We're not sure, but typically after we introduce a product like this, we have a bunch of demos that were prototypes or experiments and whatnot, and we reverse the changes that we made so that we can build it back up. We can't sell it as new, so we offer them at a really, really nice discount.
That's handy. Does Cherry have any plans to make AB amps?
No.
There it is, flat out. I mean,
sorry to be so long-winded.
Those those megas look awesome. Your megas and your 5-channel amps look
that
pretty.
Megashino.
China likes, I can tell.
The 5 Cherry.
You want to try some of those out.
It's no joke.
Yeah, that or the 5s. Yeah, those look.
You know
great.
what I learned, Tommy?
What?
I learned that like helping do the brand and product pages for the HiFi Summit, that when you put Megashino, you got to make sure to put the S. You know what I mean? I almost missed that and said Megachino. And now
for my review, no lie, I had to Google and even ask Siri, how do you pronounce that? Because apparently some people say maraschino and some people say, what was the other pronunciation? Maraschino or something. And I went, and they all seemed like they were right. So I guess.
What did you call me?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not as bad as the fact that the company is Digital Amp Company, and people always say Class D doesn't mean digital. It's not a digital amp. You shouldn't.
Oh yeah.
But it's the name of the company. It's not the name of the technology.
yeah.
But I mean, it does use digital circuitry. I actually was a digital designer at one point. Mostly, I do analog and digital, but I did FPGA design, which was essentially digital circuitry, all digital circuitry. And you can do a lot of things in the digital domain with these types of amplifiers.
Do you have any plans to make a kind of a more scaled down version? Like a more portable?
I would think more likely a headphone amp instead.
Mm.
So people ask us a lot of times if we're going to make a lower power version, but the Maraschino series can run on 30 volts or 36 volts. Actually, the power supply could be anywhere from 30 to 60 volts. So if you want lower power, you just use a lower voltage power supply. And our prices are more based on how many we can afford to make at a time than anything else, really. Our margins are really low since we sell direct. We don't need we don't have a lot of overhead. So we can, there's a lot of hardware in these boxes. You're getting a lot of physical hardware for your money. If you were to compare, for example, the chassis are 16 gauge steel. Most audio components are in stamped metal, stamped like really thin metal enclosures. It's a different level. It's another level, there. And the other thing is the boards have very expensive components on them. Some of these parts, like the super high tolerance resistors, like 0.01% tolerance resistors, they're really expensive, in some parts of the design. There are many of them in a row or many of them in a configuration, and it just adds up, So the hardware is you're getting a lot of hardware. So I hope I answered
the 5-channel, the 5 cherry.
It's $3,090 for the regular and $3,590 for the. Now the King version has this faceplate on it, right? Is that the
the King version has the faceplate. We're not sure how we're going to work this. The one on the bottom of that picture there is no longer done. We don't do that because now we have the logo silkscreen on the front of the box. So
I like the look of the top one better. Both
the
the top and the center.
red pops.
Yeah. Either one of those.
Yeah, the bottom one looks cool too.
Bottom one looks a little minimalistic.
Yeah, now instead of the bottom one, now we have the logo on the face, and it was white, but now it's red, and it looks so nice. You could probably find it. It's on my Facebook page, on the Digital Amplifier Company Facebook page. I don't know if it's easy to get that.
I can pull it up.
But also we're making a thin faceplate now that's a lot less expensive. Those big faceplates are tremendously expensive, and they're actually silkscreen in a separate place than they're made. And we buy them in limited lots because of that. And to me, it looks pretty and everything, but many customers say, what can I do to get the cost down? Oh yeah, there you go. So now it has that on the front of the less expensive version, the standard version. And we have occasional sales. We have occasional demo sales, and we also have recently had a special on the multi-channel amp, $700 off any version new.
Oh, wow.
And if you buy that, you can get our Megasnake speaker cables, which are normally $250 channel, because they're also very expensive to make. They're braided, and they're $90 a channel if you buy an amp. So it's practically free. I mean, consider what they cost. The other thing is, was that
these guys? No.
Yeah. It's on the website. I think the Megasnakes are on the website.
Oh, hold on. We got to switch it over.
We sold those on Amazon. We were on Amazon for a little while, which was a nightmare, and that's a whole other story. But we were selling them for $450 a pair, and we sold a bunch of them. The talking
about your speaker wires?
Megasnakes. Scroll down. I think it's on there. Yeah, the one on the bottom
Oh,
right.
this
Yeah,
one.
225. It's shiny.
Chana likes that braided.
I'm a sucker for braided
Yeah,
cables.
he
Look at
is.
that. I like that red and black.
Yeah.
It looks like a snake.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's a very flexible cable. You can bend it around. Yeah.
It's called a mega snake. That's cool.
You can bend it around corners and stuff easily because it's braided, and it's 9-gauge equivalent, so very low resistance.
I'll show you a picture here from his Facebook that demonstrates that bendability.
Yeah, so you can't do that with most 9-gauge wire, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason. It also looks cool, and it goes with the color scheme.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It's all about the cherry.
The red and black.
Red and black, yeah. I see you have like an XLR. Is that it? Is that right? 6-inch.
You know,
3 foot.
We do have. I mean, we at one point we sold. There's another company that made these cables. They're so nice, and we sold those. They're like they're super thick though, and super hard to bend and stuff. This cable is this is a cable that's used to connect the power supply to the amplifier for the inline maraschino and for the desktop maraschino. That wire, that long wire, has a resistance of about 0.2 ohms end to end. So it's a nice, solid connection. The one on the right of that, the 6-inch version, is 0.1 ohms. It's actually less than 0.1 ohms. It's like 0.0.
And you know, another thing I noticed here too, especially was it here?
By the way, I forgot a 0 back there. It's 0.0. Sorry. 0.0.
I think it was on the 5-channel or something.
Yeah,
your noise, your harmonic distortion super low, and it seems to me like, you know, you're just making amplifiers that are just like the whole signal path is just like
quiet.
Nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing there, like completely nothing there, right?
Well,
is that what you're going for?
Exactly, like no contribution to the audio as opposed
to the sound at all.
It just does not make its own sound. It's transparent. But do you want to hear something crazy? We've actually measured an extra 0
fun.
in that with the
with 0.0002%.
Yeah, with the high feedback version, we're able to do that. And I know there are a lot of these there are other amps on the market now. People are pushing these GAN amps. We actually have what's called a BTG, which means better than GAN, output stage that we developed. Seriously, it's actually it outperforms that except for one factor, and that factor is efficiency. But we're already at 95% efficiency.
Right.
We're not worried so much about that. I mean, so we make a little heat. Our amps run a lot hotter or a lot more warm than other Class D amplifiers because first of all, we run a lot faster and we also run a lot harder. I guess that's kind of difficult to put into words, but we actually allow these circuits to dissipate power in order to be able to change the output quicker. It adds to the speed, not just of the switching, but of the audio.
Right.
So
when you say that it's quicker, what do you mean by that exactly?
When you're driving speakers, you're not driving a resistor, you're driving a reactive load. So think of it like almost like a spring, right? If you have a spring and you want the spring to be, say, a foot long, it's a big spring. You pull that spring apart by, let me see if I can get my hands in the camera. You pull that spring apart by a foot, but when you stop abruptly, the spring wants to keep going, right? And it's going like this, right? Because it doesn't want to settle at that spot immediately. It still has momentum, right? Same thing with speakers. Speakers have momentum.
Yeah.
So when the speaker cone comes out, even if the mass is 0.02 grams, there's still a voice coil motor, there's still some kind of mass behind it, especially in the bass. but still it happens in the high frequencies. So the idea there is to be able to pull the speaker and stop it as, where it's supposed to be, to hold it in place where it's supposed to be. That lack of ringing and that lack of that faster settling time is not easy to attain. That's actually one of the harder things for amplifiers to do. And it's probably part of the reason that standard specifications don't include overshoot, things like that, because if they did, the numbers would be pretty horrific.
Right.
So speakers are not very forgiving in some cases, and in some cases they are. There's some speakers where you can use a pretty mediocre amplifier and get relatively good results. But some speakers, especially like Magnapan and whatnot, are really hard to drive. And
so what is the spec that you'd look for that would determine that?
For that, it's power output, output impedance, which is also damping factor, kind of reciprocal of the damping factor, and also bandwidth. And amps that claim to have high bandwidth, a lot of times that bandwidth is what I call compromised bandwidth, because it's bandwidth that's not under control. What happens is the feedback loop of the amplifier starts to not become effective as the frequency goes up. So a lot of amplifiers rely on the fact that the speaker is going to kind of control itself in the high frequencies. It's like it's a bad assumption in most cases. I mean, the other thing is, if you play your music really loud, it's more demanding, right? If you just played whisper soft music all day and that's all you wanted to do, you wouldn't need a lot of power, you wouldn't need a lot of current. And when it comes to controlling the speaker, when you say the speed of an amplifier, some people equate that directly to bandwidth. It's not the same thing. The speed of the amplifier, when I'm talking about, is more how well it can deal with reactance. And it's kind of like, if you're driving fast and you hit the brakes, you cannot stop immediately. But the better your brakes, the faster you can stop.
Makes sense.
And
I guess it's more of a controlled sound.
Right. And if you lock up the wheels instead of just stopping, you're going to slide. So there's a case where like the speaker's asking too much of the amplifier. So it's almost like a form of clipping. It's like, well, in order to bring the driver back, it's going to take, 30 amps, but the amplifier can only do, say, 5. So what it does instead is it kind of weakly pulls it back. And you might not even hear the difference unless you're listening to the right kind of music at the right level.
Now, Tommy, your amplifiers, they're definitely look like they're designed for, great 2-channel setup, great home theater application. But, would it work like in a bedroom setup?
Actually, you have a lot of people with bedroom systems that see this guy. That picture, that's
awesome.
I was like, what the heck? 9.2.6
like that.
Atmos in a bedroom.
He actually has several more Cherry amps of the big variety
that
are in another picture, a similar photo. I don't know where you would get that, but these are just some
photos on your Facebook. Some JTRs.
Yeah, that particular individual has a home theater system in his bedroom, which is more elaborate than most people's basement home theaters. He has 4 subwoofers. He has 6 overheads in a bedroom. And the screen, I think, is like an 85-inch screen or an 80-inch screen.
Right.
Oh my God, what a just dream system. And he invited some reviewer to come to his house and do a video, but that was right before coronavirus.
Right.
What going back to the your multi-channel, the King version is just the only difference is the faceplate, right?
The faceplate, the binding posts,
okay.
and the power supply. For the Maraschinos, there is a version that has the high power supply, but doesn't have the fancy binding posts. On the amps that have faceplates, the Kings have faceplates and the standard ones don't. and that counts for the X Cherry. That counts for the Megashino. But for the Maraschino, the Cube amplifiers, the only difference there, aside from the power supply, is the binding posts. And in a lot of cases, the capacitance that's on the rails, like our Golden Cherry amplifier, is a Maraschino with the highest power supply, the 6-inch version of the DC Snake for the lowest resistance. The sleep mode is defeated, so you can keep it warm all the time because there is a 5-minute or so warm up time where the distortion actually goes lower after 5 minutes. And also other factors, I guess.
Well, Don Henley is it Henley? Hensley was asking.
Okay.
You said there's $700 off on these guys right now? Is that what's going on?
If you write to me at support@digitalamp.com, I will and say, mention the HiFi Summit, and I will send you the current special list.
Okay, because he says he needs 3 of them for 15 channels. So,
cool.
He's putting together a pretty sweet setup. He's got a Lindorf processor, 16-channel processor, beautiful processor. He brought it over. He's got a Lumagen. He's looking at, getting a projector, getting ready to kind of set up his home theater. And so he's trying to, piece this whole thing together. And so he's just kind of in the collective stage right now. So, and one day in the near future, once he gets it all set up, then I'll be going. He's pretty local to me. Probably, I think I say pretty local. I think he's about 3.5 hours. So, but I take it.
Michael,
trust me, I'll take a drive down there to check out his setup.
I'm surprised you haven't reviewed these.
He was going to send me some. I'm waiting on Tommy
on your system.
Yeah.
Oh, you're waiting on Tommy. Tommy, what's going on here?
We were out of stock for a while there.
Yeah, we talked about it briefly.
I bet. What
we got a flood of orders at one point, and
that's awesome, man. That's a good problem to have.
Yes, it is.
Would I have any troubles connecting these to like any kind of standard AVR at the like anyone that like are the RCA outputs on the pre-outs on like a Denon, going to properly give enough signal to one of these?
That's a good question. Actually, I came across a Yamaha receiver that specifies only 2.1, I think it was 2.1 or 2 volts RMS output maximum on their receiver. But that's actually, it's not true, because there was a reviewer that tested it and he said he got 3.5 volts out of it. And my customer had that product, and he now has my amps, and everything worked out just right, But there typically there are 2 kinds of receivers, right? There are ones that have preamp outputs, and there are ones that don't.
Yep.
And usually the less expensive ones are the ones that don't. So it's almost like a non-starter anyway.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're already.
Sorry, go ahead.
You're already paying this other to get to this other level. Chances are it's going to roll without issue.
Well, but what we did was we made a little box. I wish I had one here to show you. We made a little box that converts the high level outputs of the receiver to a low level output to drive our amps. Okay. Now, when you do that, because you're not loading the receiver with a speaker, the performance of the amplifiers in there is actually not that bad, because they're not really driving a load, right? They only suck when you hook a speaker up. So if you use that device, it actually creates a balanced output that can be driven into the Cherry. But when we did that, we put it out there, kind of put feelers out there, and no takers, because the only people that want to step up with the amplification, and the weakest link in the receiver is always the amps. Typically, they're the people that have the receivers with the preamp outputs. So we had almost nobody that was in the situation where they would need that. And one guy that wound up just getting a receiver that did what he wanted.
Right.
Because it was like $200. I mean, you could get a really inexpensive receiver that's decent, except for the amps, and then put a 5 cherry on it, and now you have a really high performance system.
You
Interesting.
just hot rodded your system, man.
Yeah. So let's continue this discussion in the VIP video chat. I believe tomorrow, Joe. When do we start tomorrow? Is it 10 o'clock?
Let me see
Yeah,
here.
I got the schedule up. It starts at 6 a.m.
Not-
Just kidding.
Whoa.
9 a.m. with PSB with
9
David
a.m.
Dunn.
9 a.m.
Yep,
Pacific.
that's correct.
That's about when I go to bed.
So
9
day,
a.m. Pacific.
day 2, we got PSB, NAD. We've got Sonic Presence, got Wharfdale, and then the
Very
after
cool.
party. So yeah,
That's
another
right.
another
So
full day.
ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. It's day 1, quarter 4, 2020, almost at a close. We're going to do HiFi night in an hour. So make sure you are scheduled for that. And we will see Tommy in the video chat, and everybody else attending. We'll see you in just a second.
Oh yeah.
Tommy, hang out. Don't leave.
Yeah, don't hit that leave studio button, Tommy.
Hey Chana, don't hit that leave button.
Yeah, I know. I messed